Welcome to the Clear Tai Chi Mastermind meeting for Friday, March 11th of 2022. Today's topic is Proof Positive Tai Chi. What do you expect from your Tai Chi and how do you verify that it is working? Before we get into that topic, let's have a word from our sponsor and introduce everybody. And so the word from our sponsor today is in June. Every year, the first weekend in June, this year, June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, is the Clear Tai Chi International Family Gathering. And it will be held in the Maryville, actually in Alcoa, Knoxville, Tennessee area. And if you are interested in that and the topic that we had last week and the next few topics coming up in the next few weeks, actually the last week, the week before, and the next few weeks are going to be about things offered at this year's Tai Chi Family Gathering, Clear Tai Chi Family Gathering. And if you're interested in checking that out and seeing more about what's offered and what's available and how it's going to work and signing up and all that kind of stuff, then you'll want to go to taichigathering.com. That's taichigathering.com. By the way, if you have not got your hotel booked already, I would do that first, like right away. I would make sure you got a hotel booking. And if you booked and you haven't bought your ticket or you haven't purchased the actual gathering yet, but you've got like the plane ticket and or your hotel and or your plane ticket, make sure that we know that so that we're aware that you're coming, and then obviously sign up for the gathering at your earliest opportunity. If you don't sign up for your hotel right away, you may end up driving as much as 60 miles each day back and forth to get to the gathering, because that first weekend in June in the Knoxville area is everybody who's been waiting to come to the mountains in the summer. That's like the first real weekend that it's summer and everybody shows up, and there's a bunch of events going on top of that, and it's just hotels booked for everywhere within any kind of close proximity. So you're going to want to do that right away, or bring your tent. I guess you can camp in the backyard or out my field here or something, because you'll need it. So,
and you're going to want to, because even if you had to tent it, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great opportunity to see a bunch of the different regional organizers that are on this podcast call regularly, who have been weighing in and leading the discussion over the last couple of weeks, and we'll be discussing more. You're going to be able to see them live. You're going to be able to get live instruction from them on the topics that they've been talking about on the podcast here. You're going to be able to meet a bunch of other like-minded Tai Chi people. There's going to be a bunch of Tai Chi games and other kinds of like sort of mini events going on the whole time. It's going to be a really great experience. It's going to be a great weekend. And so, yeah, you're absolutely check it out. Get your hotel booked as soon as you can, as soon as you know you're coming, and then let us know. And, you can get all the information you need to make your travel arrangements and whatever other arrangements you need to make at taichigathering.com. Jim Kelly from Boca Raton, Florida will be leading our discussion group today. Before we get to that, let's everyone introduce themselves. I'll go ahead and start. I'm Matt Holker. I'm the regional organizer for Clear Tai Chi here in Maryville, Tennessee, just outside of Knoxville. And Harry.
Richard Cleary, resident host.
Of course, Richard.
Hello. Welcome, Harry.
Hello there.
New Jersey, outside of New York City.
There you go. You got it. Thank you so much.
Art Don in the Washington, D.C. area.
Hello, everyone. I'm in actually Greenbelt, Maryland. That is 12 miles east of Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Daniel Hill in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right. Teaching here throughout all of the West Valley.
Welcome. Philip Chan in Columbus, Georgia.
Hello, all.
Welcome. Jim Kelly, who will be our speaker today about what his class is going to be, and he is in Boca Raton, Florida.
Right, sunny South Florida.
Mark Mashad in Michigan. He's going to tell you what parts.
Hi, it's the Lansing, and it's the Midwest Michigan area, covering Lansing, Grand Rapids, and surrounding areas.
Welcome. And Sheila Bell in Costa Rica, and she's going to tell you what parts.
area in Tropical Paradise.
Oh, say it
And I
again.
have classes.
Get it out there.
Oh, that I'm in Guanacaste, which is the northern Pacific area of Costa Rica, Tropical Paradise. And I have classes in Playa del Coco and in Liberia.
Welcome. Cool. So, Jim, your topic there is proof positive Tai Chi. What do you expect from your Tai Chi and how do you verify that it is working? And the first two things I've got for you is tell us about your class and just, in a talking way for the gathering, for like what it is, what it's about, what kinds of things somebody can expect from it, that kind of a deal.
Well, I think it's important that as we practice anything in life, we constantly improve and check what we're doing, whether it be, your career or a hobby, anything that you strive to better yourself at. There should be some way for you to measure your improvements and to make sure you're on that right track to doing it the best you can. So the Tai Chi is also, it's very important that we apply that same principle and that we move forward as much as we can and learn as much as we can, because it is such an all-encompassing art. So we're going to discuss how we do that from the group of people on the panel here, and try to give you some ideas on how to keep moving forward.
So what would be an example, and I don't really want you to so much to teach what you're going to be teaching, but what would be an example of like an exercise or a thing that people will do when you're in your class that would kind of, that obviously is about that?
Well, one of just the basic, and I hope I don't steal anybody's thunder or their topic, or somebody else can address it also, but I found that one of the most elusive things that I've learned since starting with Sifu Clear has been the development of my root, and how to visualize and how to check if your root is actually there. You can talk to folks all over the place and they think they have such great root, but really the telltale sign I've found is when you push with someone, are they able to move you, or do you need a whole lot of physical gur to try to stop from being moved, or do you actually have the root well enough so that you could rechannel their energy and use your root to prevent from being pushed? So that's been one of the areas that I've found to be most useful to check where I'm at is.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you right, it's taking various skills, and then this is a way to see whether that skill is really on or if you just think it's on.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you've got some group discussion there and other things you may want to say about it.
Take it away, Jim.
Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, a lot of you guys know a little bit about my background in law enforcement, and I'm in a unique position where I kind of sort of get to test some of the applications. I've worked in some very interesting venues where I've worked a lot with children in detention facilities and in regular school settings, even, where you really don't want to use force with somebody that's in that tender age, even though they have the bodies of full adults. I've seen some kids in high school football that it tossed me around like a paper, like a rag doll, but it still doesn't make it right to use force and damage them just because they've suffered some sort of a temporary moment where they're not making rational decisions. So for me, I've had that opportunity to to see how the Tai Chi works in a martial environment. But martially isn't the only application that I'm concerned with. Since coming up or along in the Tai Chi, I found so much more of it out there, and I'd like to find out from from others on the panel and others in the group at the class during the gathering, different ways to try to verify that there are specific areas that they emphasize or are pursuing it within the Tai Chi, how they're able to gauge that they're working forward or achieving their goals. So what I'd like to do is just ask 3 general questions of some of the folks on the panel here, and see if we can come up with some good ideas and some subjects to approach during the presentation at the gathering.
During the class.
So if you don't mind, I'll get started with the first question, and I'll probably go with Harry there because you're the next one up on my screen. So the first question is, when and why did you start Tai Chi practice? And how did you confirm that you achieved your original goal? So way back when you first started, with the Tai Chi. My example would be that, I was injured in the line of duty a bit and pretty banged up. So my original purpose to get into the Tai Chi was purely physical, rehabilitative. And it was all Li Tai Chi, or all stretching, strengthening, and rehabbing a bunch of herniated discs in my back and my neck.
Okay.
So that was 20 somewhat years ago. And I first saw signs that it was working about 2 years afterwards, when I could get back into other martial arts that I was doing, and, doing the regular physical day-to-day chores. I do a lot of silly things like, horseback riding and boating, and a lot of physical labor. So those were proof positive that the Tai Chi actually worked during the rehab. So Harry, again, when and why did you start with the Tai Chi, and what did you use to confirm that it was working?
Thank you, Jim. Wow. I started, I was like 15 or so years ago. And I was at another school that taught the fundamentals of 8 different martial arts disciplines. And Tai Chi was one of them. And I learned, after meeting Sifu Clear at a major Tai Chi event that was happening at the time up in Albany, New York, called the Tai Chi Gala. It no longer exists. I met him, I think, a couple of years into being at that school, where I thought I was learning Tai Chi, but learned that really wasn't the case. A form was being taught that wasn't even a Tai Chi form. It was more of a Kung Fu form, where they simply told us to move slow and breathe in and breathe out here and there. And they weren't teaching any applications. And I learned what I was learning was completely empty. But I met Sifu Clear and a number of his students that he brought with him to this event. And when I put hands on and we did some push hands, and I felt real root for the same time, my mind was blown. I'm like, whoa, what is this? Also, the other training that I had was just absolutely form crazy. I must have had 30 or 40 forms, no exaggeration, and then it went beyond that. And I'd had enough. I mean, how many? I'm on kata number 22 now in my karate training, and now I could list off a whole bunch of kung fu forms, short and long, and then a whole bunch of weapons forms, and I enjoyed some of that, of course, but it was very empty. So I started training with Sifu Clear, and I can't say that I had a goal. It just called to me, and I think for many people that get into Tai Chi, I know this is the case for me, and I see it amongst some of my students. You don't really have a way generally to know what to expect. You don't know how far in how deep this art goes. I didn't know that it could fight as viciously as it does, like scary vicious. It goes there. And I didn't know the healing side of it, other than what most people look at as the healing side. Oh, well, my butt is up off the couch and I'm moving, and yeah, that's good for me. Sure, of course, but it goes way beyond that with the different energies that you learn, and using your mind and breath and bringing all sorts of stuff together. So as I continued to learn this and study, and you know, I'm on it's multiple lifetimes of learning for Tai Chi. We can't all possibly get it all. So I don't know that there's an actual goal other than to get everything I can and to use it to make myself healthy and to be able to help others as well. I'm not here to become some amazing fighter, but I do enjoy the martial side of it. Everyone knows I love push hands. It's one of my favorite things to use as the laboratory to check just about every single thing we learn in Tai Chi. I use push hands as that laboratory, and clears internal in particular. But I'm always game to do the tournament style too, just to see how I can take the internal skills that I learn from internal push hands and use them in the one where typically people are out here. I joke and call it they're playing patty cake, because they're not feeling inside so frequently. It's just a bunch of wrestling. So I love taking our version, our method, and using it in everything I do in that regard. So I hope that answers it, because I don't really have a goal other than to just keep going and see where this journey takes me, because I love it.
So partially, I guess what I'm hearing a little bit of is that you originally started with what can be termed as an empty form,
Yes.
and then Sifu clear, and found things to fill that form with, so that you started learning true Tai Chi.
Yes. And what was interesting is before I left that school, the qualities that I was getting from what I was learning from Sifu Clear, I began to put into the Kung Fu forms and the other stuff that I was learning there. And all of a sudden it made it more real. And I was beginning to get a better understanding. And it made what I did much more valid than, okay, let's just move empty, and I've memorized kata number 22 now, or kung fu form number whatever. And it brought those forms to life, which that school wasn't giving me.
Great observation. All right, great.
Thank you.
How about you, Art? How long ago was it that you started, and do you recall what you started practicing the Tai Chi for?
Well, I started a while ago. I had my first introduction with another group that it really was, and I consider it fortunate, under the instruction of a good, I would say, serious, knowledgeable martial artist, with the internal arts in particular, Tai Chi, Xingyi, and Bagua. And I was given a good introduction to them, and the concept of Qi, and was made to realize that there was a lot of power in these martial arts, and in Tai Chi also, which one often hears how it's just really light and not powerful at all, and not good for self-defense. But after my initial introduction with this group, the instructor went away, and with scheduling difficulties, I didn't keep up with the group anyway, until I would, well, just, and then in the in-between years, I would practice some of the forms that I learned. Fortunately for me, the instructor made a CD of all the forms. So if there was something I forgot, I could go over and learn the form. But
so you started for that quest for Qi, or feeling the energy?
actually, no. And the reason I initially sought out a Kung Fu instructor was I had a book on ancient Chinese exercises that I found good doing them, and I felt powerful and energetic and good. And it said, well, okay, you've come this far. When I got to the end of the book and could do all the exercises after a while, and it said, if you want to learn more and develop Kung Fu skills, you need to seek out a good Kung Fu instructor. So I did, and fortunately, as I say, came across this man who had a small group and practiced with them. Had a good introduction to the martial arts. As I
And
say,
then it was originally for strength training that you started.
well, it was just because I knew and learned some Kung Fu exercises, well, Chinese health exercises, they called it. Maybe they were something like what's called 8-section brocade or Badwa Jin, something like that.
So what got you interested in doing that?
I just got the book. Well, I wanted to exercise, learn different things, and I was just at the library and came across this book and started looking through it, and it looked interesting.
All right.
And I checked it out and just found it good. So this was all, and it wasn't all strength, or it wasn't really strength in itself. It was ancient, the Chinese health exercises, as opposed to push-ups and sit-ups and
So by the end of the book, though, you did feel healthier and stronger.
Oh, yeah, I felt good and just wanted to take it to the next step. It said, you've done these,
So then
not exactly.
you confirm that you achieved your goal by basically feeling stronger and healthier.
Well, and again, well, not again, but maybe as Harry said, I didn't really have a goal other than to get, do these exercises and get healthier, or, see what they did for me. And I found them excellent, and more than just like a high school gym class, push-ups and sit-ups and sprints. I found it really good.
Excellent. All right, let me move on to Daniel. What do you think, Daniel? Do you remember when and how you started, or what you started Tai Chi for?
I'm not that old yet, so yeah, I can remember. Wow, what a great question. Particularly when did you find what you were looking for? I started martial arts when I was 14 in a Kempo karate school that did a lot of more things on the Chinese side. When I was 15, it was kind of mandatory to do some Tai Chi and Qigong classes there. And when I first did some of the Qigong and could feel that tingliness on my fingertips, I was like, whoa, this feels substantial. And I kind of went on a quest at that point to research that and try to go further and further with that. And I went to many different schools in the state that I lived in. I bought lots of books, was reading things in the Black Belt magazine and Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine, and I couldn't really find a whole lot. I did notice basically everything I found was insubstantial, and I couldn't find anything that had that substance that I somehow felt deep in my core was there or should exist. And being a skeptic, I wanted to basically prove whether it existed or not, kind of like your whole topic. And eventually I met some students and met Arthur Sykes himself, in which you hear stories of the things that he was able to do. And playing with some of his students, I'm like, wow, they actually have what I think is the substantial thing, but they would never teach it. So I could train with them for as long as I wanted, and they would never teach it to me, which made me kind of, again, question whether it actually existed or not. And I continued to go around buying books and DVDs and training, the most substantial things I actually had were things I came up with on my own. Little fun story. I was at a mall. There was a gallery of Disney paintings, and there was one of Mickey Mouse from Fantasia moving the waves, while he's standing on that cliff. And so while I was there, I was like, hey, I feel like I can move the energy this way. And I didn't even find anything like that until I found Uncle Bill's Energy Throws, which I got from another DVD. And through Uncle Bill, I found Sifu Clear and did his Practical Guide to Internal Power and his Tai Chi Level 1 program, in which the next closest thing I found from anything I came up with on my own was his Neigong set in the Tai Chi Level 1. That was the first time in, I want to say, 11 years of searching that I felt something substantial that I could do on my own, and that was actually being taught.
So the quest was to feel the energy in the beginning, and you confirmed it.
The best way I can word it is I was training all those years thinking someday I'm going to find a teacher that actually has what it is I'm searching for, because I can't verbalize what it is that I'm actually searching for. And even when I bought Sifu Clear's programs, specifically the Fa Gong and the Iron Palm and Tai Chi Level 1 stuff, I still was skeptical. I'm like, I don't know. He's advertising this push hands Level 1 stuff and rooting energy. I don't know. So I wouldn't say that I really felt like I found that, even though I was hopeful, until I attended his push hands Level 1 workshop. And at that time, I was already living in China, which is, I went there again to keep searching for whatever it is I could not name, and wasn't able to find it in China either. So I would say I first found it either through the Neigong set from Sifu Clear's Level 1 Tai Chi online, or the Push Hands Level 1 workshop where we were rooting and feeling each other's intent. That was
so you were able
really kind of did it for me. Yeah.
So you were able to feel the energy within yourself and then with other students at the seminar?
It's not just feeling, it was being able to use it, because I could feel even, and it was being taught, because the students of Arthur Sykes had some skills, and so did some people in China, but they would not teach it.
Okay.
So the fact that it was actually being taught and that I could test it and prove it and use it, that's what really did it for me.
Now I'm going to write that down. Right? Testing it with other students and having a good teacher.
Well,
absolutely.
And actually being able to get it is the other part I'm hearing you say, that there was one thing to see, to feel it, or to know that other people had it going on, but then to actually be able to get it yourself, as opposed to just knowing there's this thing, but I may never get it.
Yeah. Search that panned out.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great observations there. Thanks, Daniel. And moving on, I guess maybe we'll go to Phil. Oh yeah, I know you got it.
So anyway, so I will answer your question as you ask, and you may be frustrated with my answer, but I will answer the question as you ask it. When and why did you start Tai Chi practice? I started it in 1968 because my father dragged me to Chinatown to take a class with Cheng Man-ching, who had just opened up his studio.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was Chinatown, New York or California?
Yeah, in New York. Cheng
No.
Man-ching, yeah, in New York. And so that's why I started. And
your goal was not to disappoint.
just to get my father off my back, because I couldn't say no.
And it worked.
That is probably the best and truest answer. That's great. But we'll elaborate on that with my second question. So we'll freeze it right there.
So the other part that I'll ask him is, and then obviously you continued your studies at some point.
Right.
What caused you to do that?
Oh, that was my second question.
Second question, he's gonna get to
No,
that.
to continue,
Oh, no, that'll be this one I'm looking for. Like, so the first reason he went wasn't because of him so much, other than dad. But at some
Right.
point, he had an initial reason for wanting to do more then. And then he's going to have your second question. We'll even hit that further, because then you past his initial beginning there. So,
right. So
it's
this is going to be a long
There's
twist,
stages
a
to
long twisted answers. So
We have time
I
limits.
continued. I continued. Actually, we only stayed with Ching Man Cheng for about a month, and then I trained with William C.C. Chen in Levittown, Long Island. And that was just kind of to learn something. You know, again, I went there because my father wanted me to. And then I went away to college, didn't do anything with it. And then I trained with Robert Smith in Bethesda, Maryland. And the reason I did that, again, I think a little bit was just, excuse me, just a minute. I may need to take this call. Excuse me.
All right, we'll bounce down. We'll bounce over to Mark. I guess, Mark, you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Phil, put it on mute, please.
Oh,
No, he's got you
I'm sorry.
back.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, wait, he's back.
are we back, Phil, or?
He said Phil's on mute now.
I put you on mute, Phil, sorry.
You
Yeah,
can't
there you go.
unmute.
Yeah, well, good.
All right, so.
So then I was with Robert Smith, and my motivation for doing it then was I guess it was mostly stress reduction. I was in the middle of a residency, and I had a really dysfunctional relationship with my training director. And so I drifted into yoga, and I did yoga, and then I also did some Tai Chi. So in large part it was stress reduction. And also, I guess it was just like, I saw it as part of my Chinese heritage.
Mhm.
So there was a certain draw to that. And I guess I was looking for health benefits that were not well defined, but I would say probably stress reduction was my reason for doing it at that time.
And you wound up not choking your trainer, so I guess the stress reduction worked a bit.
There was no chance of that. He was like 6'2", and he was like really athletic. He would have beaten me to a pulp. And then
So there's no poisoning
again,
in the trainer's foods, apparently. So
Yeah.
he's like, I didn't say that. Oh, anyways.
and then my next foray was I had just retired from the military, and I had really bad arthritis in my hip. And I couldn't run, and I couldn't play tennis, and I couldn't do yoga, and I couldn't dance. And there was in the apartment complex, they were giving, one of the tenants was giving Tai Chi lessons a couple times a week, and they were free, and he got a little bit off of his rent. So it was like I was looking for something to do, and there really wasn't anything physical I could do that was interesting. So I just sort of fell into it.
Nice. Yeah. Oh.
Yep. So the rest of the way to the next question.
I guess
Just
we
remember to
can-
follow up from there. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and you know, this sort of transfers, I guess. It wasn't really your intent, but I guess it was your father's intent, introducing you to the Tai Chi for a little bit of, you know, discipline that kids all need, and you followed it for the rest of your life, it looks like.
In a long.
Wise man. All right, I'm gonna
And-
skip over to Mark. We got you back live again, bud.
So, and then,
Yep. Hey, Phil,
Oh,
Phil,
Phil?
we're gonna come back to you. We're gonna go to Mark now.
okay,
Mark, you need to turn off your mute. Yep.
Just the voice.
Well, I guess that would work. I was gonna sign it, but I guess, yeah, I can. Um, ask me the question again. Like how you work.
When and why you started Tai Chi originally, and if you feel that anywhere along the way you affirm that you reached that goal.
Okay, so when I first started training in the martial arts, it was more like the first time I took it, it was a karate, like a community education karate class. And I was like stumped because something as simple as standing in a horse stance and throwing corkscrew punches where you chamber at the hip, I couldn't do it. I lacked the coordination to operate both hands at the same time. And so the wrong hand would be up, the wrong hand would be down. Maybe it didn't go all the way back. It was crazy how bad it was. And so it kind of started like a little bit of a fascination.
And how many weeks ago was that?
Yeah, no kidding. Depending on what we're doing, sometimes it feels like last week, but
years ago.
Yeah.
While back.
But and so I've always had a thing of I describe it as being cursed with perpetual dissatisfaction. And what it is I'm curious, like naturally curious and kind of fascinated, interested with things around me, where I wonder why they work the way they work. Why why is that the way it is? What's the purpose of that? These things, and then I just keep looking till I figure out the answer. And so I started out with a community education class when I was in the 8th grade, and I wrestled in high school, which is kind of a martial sport. And when I got to college, I was excited because there was all these clubs I could try, martial arts clubs. And then I also, what I did was there was an extensive library, and I went to the library and started kind of researching, and not just martial arts, but any of a number of different fields, which really kind of all come together. If you look at like a true, like you're talking about refinement of the self, they would all kind of fit in with that. And I was fascinated with Tai Chi because when I was doing my research, there's certain qualities. Well, first of all, the name. If you look at how Tai Chi Chuan, it's the supreme ultimate fist. In other words, the pinnacle fighting style. The name itself says that. And so I read into sort of these I would read into stuff that was grounded like in science. There'd be very base physical stuff, and then I also would go to the outer limits of like apocryphal stories, anecdotal stories of cool stuff people would do, the sort of stuff that they exaggerate and put into the kung fu movies, jumping on roofs and running on treetops and all that, right? Well, there'll be an anecdotal story usually that's not nearly as impressive, but it's cool. It's an interesting thing. And so as I started looking into this stuff, I actually, the first time I've tried Tai Chi, this is the 4th time I've tried to do Tai Chi. And before I started looking, I had an idea what I was looking for. And I maybe couldn't vocalize it at the time. But one thing is this. If you go back far enough in Chinese martial arts, they talk about like there's an external way and an internal way of martial arts. But a true master, they get to the same place. They're coming from different directions. And so if you have an external martial artist, they should have these internal powers at some point. And if you have an internal martial artist, they should have the external powers at some point. They should be well-rounded and be able to do both. And one thing I noticed is in all martial arts I'd taken in the past is they they might be developed in the external realm, but there's not that quality that's described in the Tai Chi classics and stuff.
So there was a little bit of a
there's
little bit of a flaw with the instructors and not being able to offer enough or describe
so
what they were looking for.
Yeah. And with the Tai Chi, they would talk about the skills, internal stuff, but it was more like a religious zealot where they were talking about something where you had to have faith in it.
Uh-huh.
So it's almost like magic kind of really for them. Do you know what I mean? And they talk about it, and it was almost like like live action. You ever seen where they do the live action role playing? Where they do the fake fighting in the park, like the Dungeons and Dragons type fighting. Oh, I hit you with my +10 sword. That sort of had that feel to it, right? And when I would test them, they wouldn't have the ability to actually apply it in the real world to defend themselves. And so one of the things I was looking for was one of the things I picked up from my research is that a true master of martial arts, he can do like a true Tai Chi master, he can copy an external fighter, their style, and perform pretty well. An external fighter cannot copy an internal fighter. Yeah. Because the different works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Say Tai Chi isn't everything, but everything's not in Tai Chi. So
yeah. And so I didn't have good luck finding someone who was good at that, at the Tai Chi or internal arts. So I focused on external arts for years. Yeah. And with the idea that, external martial arts could get to the same place somehow. I didn't know how.
So
and
how did how did you confirm that the Tai Chi has done that, or were you able to confirm?
So what I did was I realized that in the past, people would do lots of intensive training where it was several hours every day. And so I put myself in a position where I was teaching martial arts for a living. And I would train all day. I was able to get my hands on old training schedules for like karate and jujitsu, stuff like that. Old school training styles of how they would train and how they set up their training programs and all that. So I put myself
on the Tai Chi.
What's that?
Were you able to find that on the Tai Chi?
Oh, I'm getting to that. I'm explaining how I got to what brought me here, or how I found this. So what happened was, I started having some like weird, spooky, weird stuff would happen. And so, for example, I was sparring one day where we wear, you wear all the foam padded gear, karate sparring, and I tapped the guy in the forehead, and it was real light, and I had no thought to. I just shot out. I got him in the forehead, and he stumbled back. And he goes, "Oh!" and he starts holding his lower back. I'm like, "Dude, are you all right? What happened?" And the energy transferred from his head down his spine, and he felt the explosion in his lower back. He's like the lowest vertebra. He felt the explosion down there. He felt the energy ripple down when he described it. He felt the energy flow down and then stop, probably in a bad spot that he had.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that was a weird freak thing. And then it happened 2 or 3 more times. And so something had probably changed in my structure to where it was happening just from all the training and trying to train proper. Stuff was happening accidentally. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't truly in charge of it.
Right.
But I became aware that was similar to the sort of thing I would read about, where the energy could be put somewhere else in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an interesting thing with, I was doing like judo or jujitsu, it's a standing jujitsu, where you throw people.
Yeah.
You grab the clothing, right? And we're engaged in the activity, and feeling each other out, trying to figure out how to sweep the feet or kick the do the hip throw or whatever. And all of a sudden, I just knew. I can't describe it to you. I just knew. What I did is I let go of his sleeves. No, I shook him and looked him in the eye. When he looked at me, I said, "Fall down."
Mm-hmm.
And he fell down. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I just knew it worked. And when I did it, he fell down and he looked at me. His eyes were wide and he's like, "How did you do that?" I said, "I have no idea." You know what I mean? And I couldn't figure out what it was, but there was something there. You know what I mean? And now I have a sense of it after doing this. But so
I was
anyways,
going to say, fast forward to the Tai Chi. You think it was something that's related to that?
yeah. So the falling down thing, that's it's the mind intent.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
And so the anyways, I had some other weird junk, but anyways, I knew there was something there. I knew there must be something, and somebody had to know it. And so I basically resolved myself that I would just keep looking. I started with my hometown. I just kept spiraling outward. I was just going to keep spiraling outward until I found somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it existed then.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Well, you achieved the
This
goal.
is the only place.
Yeah.
With Seafood Clear, this is the only place I found it.
So you're able to search it out. You actually confirmed that it existed before you were able to get the correct training on it. Is I think what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it was accidental and with no understanding. The important thing is that there was no understanding as to how it worked.
Yes. And now you have the understanding after studying the Tai Chi and meeting Seafood Clear. Excellent, man.
Yep.
Thank you. Tai, are you on deck with us there? I see you on mute. There you go.
Okay. Yes. I started Tai Chi 7 years ago. Actually 8 years ago. But again, my first teacher wasn't actually teaching me Tai Chi. He knew how to do the 24 form, and that was it, and told me he was teaching Tai Chi. I will give a very short story about how I got to Tai Chi. I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. After I left the Marine Corps, I worked for different companies and agencies in Chechnya and Kazakhstan, Libya, and several places in Central America. And my wife wanted me to be home. So my basic skills were how to hurt people. And so I ended up working as a bouncer and doing bodyguard work. And one night I overreacted to a guy and I hurt him really badly. And I was very upset with myself. And I went into isolation. And then finally, my wife got me to go see a psychiatrist at the VA. And he told me 3 things to do. One was illegal in most states. And then he told me 2 other things to do. And one of them was Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started looking for Tai Chi, because at the time, not only was I constantly, in 3 or 4 fights a week, professionally or not, but I was also having night terrors. I'd have terrors where I'd wake up at night 2 or 3 nights a week, where I'd put my fist through walls and knock over furniture. I'd be back in combat from PTSD.
Yeah.
And so when I started doing some Tai Chi and doing the meditation and everything else, everything started to back off and it was better. And then I went to a seminar called The Secrets of Internal Power. And I had a session with Seafood Clear, and probably 50% of all the night terrors went away. And now I've gotten to the point where where I've forgiven myself and forgiven other people some things that happened in my life, through my study of Tai Chi, so that no longer am I getting in fights. And I probably only have night terrors, maybe 4 or 5 a year. And it's usually between the months of September and December. And so I probably won't be coming out to any seminars during that time period. I've learned from past mistake. But yes, that's how I know my Tai Chi has moved me in the right direction.
That's a real affirmation, just not having to worry about falling asleep at night. Yeah. Thank you for your service and for putting up with those long lasting effects. That's thank you. So that's definitely proof positive that your studies in the Tai Chi have worked, and nothing to do with martial aspects or and any of that. So you already had those skills. So
yes, but
thank you.
But then again, I want to have those skills with finesse now.
Yeah. Well, that's again. We'll touch back with you on question 2 if we have time. All right, Miss Sheila in Costa Rica. When and why did you start with the Tai Chi, and do you think you've achieved the original reason? You've achieved that goal?
So, yeah, it's really interesting to hear everybody's story, and there's little pieces of my story in everyone else's experience. So that's kind of fun to see how that works out. So I started actually at the behest of my husband. He was, or is still, he has a personality that where he gets really stressed out. You know, he doesn't sleep and he has panic attacks and all this kind of thing. So he was asking a friend of his, and this was more than 20 years ago. He was asking a friend of his, what do you do about your stress? And he says, well, I go to the acupuncturist. And he's like, oh, I hate needles. I'm not going to do that. And he says, no, but I'm not going for needles. He's doing the massage. So what I understand now is that it was Twine Up. And so the acupuncturist actually is a good friend of mine now. And he told me he just doesn't like to do Twine Up because it's a whole hour with one person. Whereas when he uses needles, he can do a bunch of people and move on, you know, have like 5 patients that he's just kind of doing the rounds. And they're more efficient, you know, the needles work faster and better. So he told my husband that what he really ought to do is learn Qigong, because that way he would be doing basically the energy work in his own body and kind of just, you know, spreading the word about Qigong to all of his patients, kind of trying to, you know, get himself out of a job, I guess. He's just a really nice guy wanting everyone to be able to move their own Qi. And so my husband started Qigong. He and his partner were driving about 45 minutes once a week to get these lessons. And he got kind of tired of that. So he said to the teacher, would you be willing to come out and give class at my house? And he said, well, I would if there were at least 10 people in the class. So my husband signed me up and our son and my daughter, right? And so all 4 of us were in the class trying to sort of beef up the numbers. And I was just like, sure, honey, whatever's going to help you, you know? And little did I realize how much it would change my life. During that course,
cool story.
yeah. During that course, I actually injured my knee quite severely. I suffer from several autoimmune diseases, one of which is degenerative to the connective tissue. And so I blew out my knee doing gymnastics. And I told him, I said, I can't do class today because look at my knee, it's swollen up like a soccer ball. And he offered to fix it for me. And that was kind of the start of my journey with traditional Chinese medicine, which completely changed my view on the world. And so that's sort of the physical aspect. I did just Qigong for several years. And then later he taught me the Yang 24, right? So the Shivashi Qigong and the Yang 24 were all public versions. And, you know, he offered them up simply as health support. And he was not a Tai Chi teacher, but he was, you know, giving wholeheartedly of what he had. And at some point during that course, he said, you know, Sheila, you know enough now that you should become a teacher. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, first of all, that never occurred to me. And second of all, I don't really feel prepared, you know? And so I started looking for a better preparation. And that's when I came across back when Sifu had a lot of stuff on YouTube, right? And then eventually I got his book. I signed up for a course. I was doing Tai Chi Level 1 online and all of this. And so that's like one branch of my story. The other branch started when I was about 13, I guess. I was in a special summer course where we went to Mexico and we were learning about all kinds of things, like comparing the culture between Mexico and Texas. And one of the things we looked at was the curandismo. Okay, and obviously this affected me as well because I live in Latin America now. So all these influences converging. But that was the first time I felt energy in my hands because we were talking about, well, you know, how can people even think about that? That's really weird. That's so different, right? But so then they showed us, well, if you do this meditation and we're going to do exercises similar to, you know, the energy ball that we do in Tai Chi. And I was like, I felt something. And I was like, wow, that's so weird because I could send something to one of my partners and they would be like, you know, now they felt it. They picked up on it. And I was like, that's really cool. And then probably about 23 years ago, I had the opportunity to take a class in something called Pranic Healing, where it was also an energy healing method. And I was pretty effective at it and I was helping a lot of people, but I was getting negative effects. They didn't really show us how to handle, you know, the other end of it, so to speak. I didn't have the skills to know how to handle what was happening. So when I was looking at all the different courses that were available with Clear Tai Chi, and I saw that they were offering the Fagong workshop, which was energy healing. And I was like, ooh, that's very interesting. And so that was actually my first workshop. And so for the wrapping up, did I achieve? I would say to some degree, we've helped my husband stress. I actually continued the study and he didn't. But by studying myself, I'm more able to support him when he needs my help. And he's also my #1 cheerleader. He's done enough of it that he can really talk it up. So he's been a big support to me and I've tried to be a big support to him. I would love to see him doing it, you know, instead of just talking about it. But he does benefit from me doing the Fagong, obviously, as well as other people around me. And I've come to appreciate all the different branches and how learning the martial aspects actually increase the chi manipulation, your ability to understand and manipulate chi, and that of course augments your effective healing power. So I feel like there's still a long way to go, but I do feel like I have achieved to some degree my original objectives.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's actually great. You answered question 1, touched on question 2, and actually finished up with question 3. Where did you get a copy of this? I kept it close to my chest.
That's 15 years of working as a school teacher.
Yeah.
That was a 3-paragraph essay, my friend.
Yeah, that was great. Right on. All right. And then I guess I'll go to Matt. Yeah. And I'm going to, Matt, because I know that you're great at this podcast stuff, I'm going to step away for a second and get a charging cable.
Okay.
I'm coming to the end of my battery here. But same thing. When and why did you start Tai Chi? And how do you feel that you've confirmed that you hit that original goal?
Yeah. Well, so my original goal in the martial arts was I was a shrimpy kid, and I knew that like there's people out there who believe that might makes right, and I knew that that wasn't right, but I also knew there wasn't a lot I could do about it. And when I was 4 years old, the Karate Kid came out. And I was fascinated by it. And I saw that there was this smart way of moving and fighting where you didn't have to be bigger and stronger than the other guy. You could actually like fight smarter than them and still defend yourself, even if you were a smaller, weaker guy, which I was, even for my age. And so I didn't know anything else about the martial arts. And so I begged my parents to get karate classes. And my dad was kind of a jock, and you know, he had a wimpy small son, so he was more than happy to have me go do anything athletic. And so he signed me up for karate, and I did that for a number of years, but I could never make it work. No matter what I tried to do, when bullies like picked on me, which wasn't often, But when it happened, I really couldn't use the karate skills that I was learning the way that we learned it in class. They just didn't quite play out that way because the other guys weren't doing karate. They were doing, whatever rough and tumble stuff. And there was this precision in the karate and this sort of strength and this stuff that I couldn't quite make work for real. But what I figured out was that if I could get a hand on them somewhere, I could reasonably feel better than I could see what they were going to do. And then I could more or less stay out of the way. If I could get a hand on their arm, I could kind of feel when and where a punch was coming and get out of the way of that and have my hand there kind of just enough in case they tried to change directions or something, but where I could sort of bleed off the force instead of trying to block it out of the air with these kind of hard things. So I don't remember exactly how I pieced that together. I just did. And that's how I primarily dealt with like attackers, schoolyard bullying kind of stuff. And one day, one of my teachers, my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Wabanak, saw me do this. He saw me handle a kid that way. And he sent that kid to the office and he pulled me aside. And he said, "Where'd you get your Tai Chi?" I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, I don't do Tai Chi. I've seen that. It's that funny thing they do in the park. I can tell that's kind of martial artsy, but I actually do karate. I just can't make the karate work. This is just what I figured out. And I've used my sparring skills and my sense of timing and positioning and stuff, but I can't do the actual blocks and stuff. I just have to do it this way. And he said, "Well, that's great. That's a really kind of a low level, but that's a strategy that like Tai Chi fighters use. You might be more interested in Tai Chi." And so for the rest of the year, we talked about what Tai Chi involved and what the kind of thinking process of it as a martial art was. He told me about root and how the people that he was training with could drop root below the ground and they could like feel the energy of the other person below the ground, which I thought was like fascinating and probably BS, but I was all ears. And there was, we talked about kind of a bunch of elements of the Tai Chi. And then as I got older, I kept that in mind. And I always thought like one day when when I'm really kind of out on my own and I can go looking for a good teacher, I'll go find one like Mr. Wabanak did. What I didn't realize is that he got really, really, really lucky to find the teacher that he had. It just was not commonly publicly available out there in every, strip mall like karate was. You can find it. You can find the form all sorts of places at YMCAs and senior centers all over. But to actually learn it as a martial art or being a smaller, weaker person who's still capable of defending himself, it's just incredibly hard to find. And so my very first goal in Tai Chi was to just find a good qualified teacher. And then shortly behind that, find a good qualified teacher who was teaching openly, who would actually share the art with you. And so I had to look for about 20 years. But in May of 2015, I had bought several videos of Richard Clears. I found him online just by kind of keeping feelers out there for martial arts related stuff that I might be interested in. I saw what he was doing with Tai Chi. It sounded like the right kind of stuff that I was looking for. Certainly he looked very skilled with it. In May of 2015, I came down to Tennessee to do a workshop with him live. And on the second day of that workshop, he had us moving energy and manipulating energy at a distance in our partners in such a way where I felt it firsthand. I was able to confirm that, yeah, I could do it. My partner could do it. Just about everybody else in the room could do it. And that was day 2. And so I figured, if that's what he's got everybody up to on the second day of a workshop like this, then he is the teacher I've been looking for. And that's how I confirmed it. And then that was in May of 2015. In August of 2015, I moved here.
Well, I was giving up a lot to pursue a Tai Chi goal. Yeah, that's excellent.
Well, I'd looked for it for 20 years. So I figured if I find it after that, after looking that hard, that long, and I don't go move there, then I don't know what that makes me, but I was not willing to find out.
And you know what, I'll just touch with you because you've kept it very specific to that original goal. So you were able to feel that that moving of the energy, or that the energy existed after starting the classes in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, it was really at that workshop. I knew the energy was a thing. I just didn't know exactly how much it could be manipulated directly, or how much it could be used to manipulate someone's energy directly, like in another person. And when I felt that, it really confirmed it, that like, yeah, not only is it a real thing, but it's actually like, it's not one of those like 20-year out kind of skills. Like, we did that on day 2.
Yeah. But the interesting part is, the second question I had prepared for, for everyone, we're running kind of short on time now, was that.
Let me answer the first question first, which I could do kind of quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had started Kung Fu in the 1970s there, and they had us doing Tai Chi on occasion, but there wasn't anything there that I was excited about. And then when I was somewhere around the age of 17, my mom pointed at my fingers. A lot of my fingers, if you've seen them, they look like they've been broke. That finger is being held. I'm not like trying to force it straight. Now I am, right? This kind of a thing. And you can see there's these twists and turns in my fingers. And she was like, "Did those hurt yet?" And as a teenager, I was like, "What do you mean they hurt yet?" And she was like, "Oh, they will. That's the inherited arthritis you have from the family." And so I had heard about Tai Chi for arthritis. And so I went to my instructor and was like, "I'm told that Tai Chi is good for arthritis." "Oh yeah, okay." And I got a lot more serious. My mom says these are going to start hurting within the next few years, and I don't want any of that. So do that. And at 58, I've not had pain from the arthritis in my fingers as a result. So it bore out what they
goal achieved.
Yeah, the goal achieved, right? And
43 years later.
Yep. And so that was the first one. What got me even more interested is when two of my last 2 grandparents died within the next year or 2 after that. And then I'd heard that it was also good for longevity. And I wasn't sure if it was going to do that or not, but I kept practicing. And basically 2 of my grandparents died before the age of 50, and the other ones died of bad health stuff in their 50s. And so I'm 58 and not having those kind of problems. So that one bears out. And then the thing that really sparked it further, I'm just answering all 3, was when I was in class and I was sparring a guy that did Tai Chi, because I was still for fighting, primarily using Kung Fu and doing a lot of Kung Fu. And he tapped me 3 times on the front of my body and was standing behind me, and I hadn't touched him. And I asked him if he could do it again, figuring I just blinked or missed something. And I kind of came at him like that again, and he did it again. And I was like, "Okay, what style is that? What is it you're doing here?" And he said Tai Chi. And I was like, "Yeah, right. No, what are you doing?" And it was like, "It's Tai Chi." And at that point, I was like hooked. and I trained, and for the next.
Didn't you quit in the middle of that form?
I was in the middle of a very long Kung Fu form that I wanted, and I quit in the middle of the form just to do Tai Chi strictly at that point. And I've still done other martial arts since, but the Tai Chi is the one that I've done mainstay long term through. And I took for the first 6 months after I was learning the fighting method that he was doing at that point, which is the one that we refer to as like formless fighting or the ghost fighting. I got beat every time I sparred with Kung Fu guys, and it wasn't working. About 6 months out, I was able to do it once, and then took me another 6 months to where I could do it with some consistency. But I did get to where I could do that method that I had felt that day, and then of course I've practiced that ever since, along with other things. But anyways, so
that must have been. I mean, back then there were no. Like a lot of this wasn't common knowledge, and there was nothing out there saying, "Hey, listen, when you get done with this phase of your training, this next phase is available," right? It was basically just hunt and peck and find what you could and learn what you could and add it and move on to the next goal and try to
Yep.
confirm that it worked. And
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to change that, but I would say that over 80% of the Tai Chi community, it's still that way.
yes, yeah. Well, you know what, and forgive me for not, getting around to the second question and the third question with some of you guys, but a lot of folks have answered it already. Tai Chi is such a broad art that we all started with one original goal, or we were pushed into it by a husband or a parent, or
Or by your Kung Fu instructor who was like, you're going to do a little bit of Tai Chi. You need to balance out that a little bit.
yeah, a lot of other instructors in different arts, they do, I get a lot of students in that, I had one guy stop in the other day who's been in the Kung Fu and Wing Chun for 15, 20 years. And his instructor just told him, listen, go out and find a Tai Chi teacher. You're going to need that now. And it's all very interesting. And I just wanted to point out something else that, during this conversation, another recurring theme seemed to be that you have to find an instructor that's able to bring you to that next level, or to show you what you need, so that you can then test it and find out that, yes, this really worked, or I did really learn this skill. And I mean, the folks on this group, we all have you to thank for that. And I'm sure there are, other instructors out there that are trying to guide their students along and trying to share things, but a lot of this stuff seems to be held very tightly and is inside knowledge. So it is very important.
I want to thank you guys for your work and dedication and continuation too. There was a saying one of my instructors had that I find to be the case. The art is alive in those who practice it.
Practice it and share it. Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Thank you to the rest of the people in this group. I consider myself very lucky to be part of too, to be able to bounce things off of them and get an honest opinion back. Hey, Jim, that worked. I felt it in my toes. Or hey, you're suffering from illusions of grandeur.
In my rib.
Didn't feel it. But and the other thing is, Sifu has mentioned before, he's put together a whole website and is working on a book called A Roadmap. And it just lets you know all these other things that are out there that are available to learn and are not just, like Mark said, myths or legends. The information is there, and if practiced correctly and learned efficiently, it does work and it is out there. So I'd highly recommend anybody that gets a chance to go to that roadmap.com and see what's out there and join some of the people on this webinar. And if there's somebody around you to touch hands with and to feel what's commonly discussed on the podcast, it's a great opportunity. So with that said, I hope to see somebody at the gathering and as many of you out there as possible. And I'm sorry I didn't get to questions 2 and 3.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me just pipe up for one quick second for those of you listening or watching the podcast at home who may want to check out the resource Jim was talking about. It is at taichiroadmap.com. And right now what's available is a video lecture on the roadmap. There is a much more extensive, thorough book that we are working on and will be available at that site as soon as we have it available for people. And do not miss the opportunity to come see a bunch of very skilled, very open, sharing Tai Chi teachers at the Tai Chi gathering, you'll notice that a big theme here today has been finding the right teacher. And this organization, this community, the Clear Tai Chi family has really come together around the common desire to share and spread the art of Tai Chi, the real high quality art of Tai Chi, and the mind body skills and the energy connection and all the rich stuff inside of the art that doesn't get talked about at your local YMCA. That's what we really want to get out there publicly and have that no longer be like an esoteric hidden secret of the art. And the Clear Tai Chi family gathering is our kind of biggest, best opportunity to do that in one weekend. And so we really encourage you to come and join us at that. That is at taichigathering.com.
taichigathering.com. TAICHI gathering.com. Okay. .com.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jim. We're looking forward to your presentation at the gathering and everyone else's as well.
Cool.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
the
everybody.
opportunity, guys, and all the great information. Thank you.
Good discussion.
Thanks.
Thanks.